Now, we're talking about, is this over a console, a gaming system, Nintendo stuff? And I don't know, Judge, if it was more of some folks getting together, arguing about some things. You might have owed me some, and it might have got out of hand, a little fisticuff. But I don't know if it was really a robbery, Your Honor.
I got you, Mr. Prosecutor.
Judge, the defendant allegedly pistol whipped his cousin multiple times to the point where he put him in the hospital because he needed stitches on his face. I mean,
no, he's got children.
We fight and take a Nintendo Switch. That's the little one that the kids, when you're on the road trip, on the AAU trip, and
right.
Kids are in the back seat, the little handheld. That's what we hear over the Switch.
That's not what happened.
Today in Judge McConico's courtroom, a truly baffling case unfolds. As the defendant stands accused of an attempted robbery against his own cousin. What's even more ridiculous is that this dispute supposedly revolved around a Nintendo Switch gaming system. Yes, you heard that right, a console intended for children's entertainment. Both individuals involved in the alleged incident are grown men, well into their 30s, making this situation all the more absurd. Judge McConico is understandably disappointed that such a trivial matter escalated to a serious legal issue, leaving one of the men incarcerated. And now the judge is contemplating whether to grant the defendant a bond reduction, as the defendant and his attorney are advocating for. But will the judge's compassion override the seriousness of the charges? Or will he uphold the hefty $50,000 bond? Stay tuned to find out.
Good morning, what's your name?
Good morning, Calvin Glaze II.
Calling case 230-601-5301, people of the state of Michigan versus Calvin Eric Glaze II. Defendant charged with count 1, robbery, armed, serious injury, count 2, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder or by strangulation. Defendant's labeled as a habitual offender, second offense notice. Today is the date and time for a bond redetermination hearing.
Judge, always a privilege. Steve Benson for the people.
Bill Reagan on behalf of Calvin Glaze, Your Honor. He's here for bond redetermination.
50,000 cash.
That's correct, Judge. And Your Honor, I don't have a whole lot of information on this case in terms of the facts, but from what I can see, I have some of the information. I can tell you that my client is 35. He has a prior attempt CCW from 2010, over 10 years ago, Judge. So I don't think that's important. Now, this case, Judge, allegedly happened in August of this year, but they didn't sign a warrant until Monday for some reason. They didn't sign a warrant until Monday for this. Now, we're talking about, is this over a console, a gaming system, Nintendo stuff? And I don't know, Judge, if it was more of some folks getting together, arguing about some things. You might have owed me some, and it might have got out of hand, a little fisticuff. But I don't know if it was really a robbery, Your Honor. It might have been more of some debts or I don't know, Judge. But I just don't think it was an armed robbery per se. The people.
How old is the defendant?
He's 35. Judge, got 8 kids. He got 8 kids. He has to support. He's got children.
We fight and take a Nintendo Switch. That's the little one that the kids, when you're on the road trip, on the AAU trip, and
right.
Kids are in the back seat, the little handheld. That's what we hear over the Switch.
And it's not what happened as they try to portray it, Judge. There's more to it. And I hate that he can't talk and tell you what really happened, but it's not. It wasn't an armed robbery. It was a lot more to it. Yeah, some folks got roughed up. Yeah, but it unfortunately, it took them about 3 or 4 months to figure it out before they signed it. It wasn't like they could sign it right away. They had to try to make some things into a report. But regardless, Mr. Glaze does not participate in this type of behavior. Has not done so in 35 years. He has his children. He's taking care of his kids. So I'd ask the 50,000 cash. Sometimes we get bonds based on what charges look like, and because it's a life offense. But Judge, at the end of the day, this armed robbery is probably going to go away so quick at the exam. once the facts come out. Now it may be reduced to something different, but not an armed robbery. I'm asking.
I got you, Mr. Prosecutor.
Judge, the defendant allegedly pistol whipped his cousin multiple times to the point where he put him in the hospital because he needed stitches on his face. I mean, with all due respect to Mr. Reagan, I don't know what report or what information that he got that he's telling you about, but this was a robbery where a gun was used, where it just continuously got, forced on another, his cousin's face, to the point where allegedly, Judge, and I do have the hospital records as well, where the defendant's forehead and his lip were swollen, and then he had a laceration over his ear because the defendant was pistol whipping him in the head that required stitches. And it wasn't just a Nintendo console, it was the money. There was over $600 that the defendant ended up taking from his complainant cousin. And there is an additional conviction for domestic violence that happened subsequent to the time that Mr. Reagan ended up saying that one conviction just for an attempted CCW. Oh, and by the way, the reason why he ended up getting arraigned was because he got picked up for another case that is still under review because he got caught driving a stolen car. So he'll be arraigned on that soon enough.
Got it.
Yeah, just so. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Based on the nature of the offenses and based on the fact that the complainant knows this defendant, had to go to the hospital as a direct result of the substantial injuries that he sustained, I think the charges are right. Now, I don't know what's going to happen at exam, but I know what's happening right now and what I see. All the allegations, the offenses, the priors, how he got arrested, the injuries. I think the $50,000 is appropriate here, Judge. We would just be asking Your Honor to continue that.
I just don't want him to believe everything he sees, Judge, because sometimes what he sees is not what is reality. So I just want Brother Prosecutor to know, don't believe everything that you see on paper.
I'm sorry, Mr. Reagan.
No, I'm sorry, Judge. I apologize.
I got
no, hold on, guys. I gotta keep it moving today. We have anyway, I don't want to get into it. Anyway, court, I haven't heard the arguments from counsel. A $50,000 cash bond for an armed robbery is an unaffordable bond, but it's an appropriate bond. It's not excessive. Court, in this case, there are some unique facts. There's the family background. There's whether the family member is going to come to court. There is whether this really happened over the, the little switch that kids play with. That grown men would be stealing switches and Nintendo Switch. Let's be very specific, not like a switch for a gun, but the little handheld thing. So with that being said, court is going to reduce the bond from $50,000 to $50,000, 10%, GPS tether, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, and no contact with the complaining witness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, did you say 50,000, 10%?
Did.
Judge, and he doesn't have $5,000, Your Honor, and he's not going to go around his cousin. I mean, if the court says have no contact with the cousin.
I'm not doing a personal bond for an armed robbery. I mean, I don't, I'm not doing a personal bond for an armed robbery. No.
Judge, so
I understand, and that's why the $5,000 may still be unaffordable, but for the nature of this offense, court finds that to be a more appropriate bond than $50,000. And I appreciate your advocacy.
No, and I appreciate you, Judge, in explaining what your reasoning. And I know this court knows how these things are charged sometimes ridiculously, but I do understand what the court's position is, and I appreciate the court taking its time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Calling case 230-601-5701, people of the state of Michigan.
All comments, viewpoints, interpretations, and insights expressed in this video are for education and entertainment purposes. All individuals featured in the video are to be presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Please do not attempt to contact, locate, or engage with any individuals featured in the video.